Sven, do you have a question?
Yes, so I'd like to ask a few specific questions. So we had the update on the budgets from the Commission, and if you look at the famous comparative columns which have been created also because the Parliament insisted that there should be more comparative measures, you can see that the worst country of all complying with the country-specific recommendations is Germany. So Malta receives in comparison only a medium note, so limited progress. So you achieve better than my home state, but there are a few questions asked. So limited action on the pension system, information on reform of healthcare is inconclusive, that's what they are saying. And they are saying that there are adoption and implementation risks concerning the reform of the efficiency of public administration. Could you perhaps comment and elaborate on this? And beyond that, I have a very specific question, which we also had in the media quite often, the question that, well, you have obviously budget problems, as you can also see that the autumn forecast shows that the structural balance for 2013 and 2014 is in danger of being missed. So now it's possible to buy into Maltese citizenship with 650,000 euros, and even without really living in Malta or investing in Malta. So it's basically selling access to a Schengen zone citizenship just for money. This has been commented very critically also in Germany, and I would like to get explanation on this because I find that very unusual that you can buy citizenship without that you have to be in the country. I'm not against giving foreigners citizens' rights, not at all, but then they should have a real tie to the country, and I'd like to get a bit more explanation, because healing the budget should not mean, from our perspective, selling citizens' rights.
Sven, I'll start from your last question because it's more important. I can assure you this had nothing to do with the deficit or with financing. It's, in fact, my permanent secretary is here with me and we discussed this. We almost wrote it off in the sense of, we said, look, the budget has to stand on its own. Finally, we put in a token of 15 million. You know, 50, and the Commission is also saying it should be down to 8 million. So 8 million in a budget of 3.2 billion. Even 3.2 is no big deal for big countries, but for Malta it's big. We're talking of 3,200 million of revenues. So 8 to 15 million is just a token. We can do without it, and the budget will stand on its own. So there was no. It was not at all tied with the government's finances or problems or deficit. By the way, I will go into the structural balance where we're disagreeing, because they are building this about the 3.4 and 3.5 is built on a premise of getting taxes, tax elasticities, taxes from certain consumption, whereby they have some coefficients which do not tally. So, but let's keep that separate. The point to be made is that the IIP, or the individual investors program, had nothing to do with this. It had to do a lot about investment. And the story is, and it's good that I'm saying this in public, that the story started with the creation of the proposal to set up a development bank in Malta. And being tied. This is true. I mean, yes, the deficit does count in the sense of that the government's hands are tied with fiscal governance and keeping the deficit below 3%, and therefore that we wanted another medium to handle investment on a long-term investment. We have a lot of banks and commercial banks, but we wanted something long-term investment. And the central bank were getting the consultancy from the IMF, working on this and the proposal and so on. So this is one stream. Had nothing to do with the IIP. Now, the other stream, this was this idea that, like Portugal and like Austria and like the UK and like the US, there could be a scheme whereby people who invest in Malta would be able to be given recognition for that. Now, what happened was that these were two separate teams. The team which got into this, how to attract these investors, got an international consultant by a public call, Henley something Associates, who had worldwide experience. And this team, the marketing team I call it, ran very, very fast beyond what the investment and bank or the fund had to do. So it carried out, and I don't blame you. If I was an MEP here and I hear that in Malta they're selling passports for 2,000, I would say, for goodness sake, I wouldn't expect that from Malta. And you would have been right, you know. But it wasn't like that. It came out like that. It's very unfortunate, and it's being corrected in the sense that any amendments, first of all, there are no legal notices with the details, so they haven't been published. The Prime Minister is meeting the leader of the opposition and having discussions on that. The anonymity which was suggested by or secrecy, if we want to call it that, yes, by the contractors, we've already refuted it. In other words, and we're listening now, we're talking with practitioners and so on. Okay, you would say, why didn't do? Of course, we admit it's out of many reforms and things we're doing in a very short time. On this, there should have been more, less haste, especially on this marketing area. So we would require, first of all, a capping. We have, even small Malta gives 1,000 citizenships every year, mostly by marriage. We don't do a due diligence whether the one is, will be happily married and whether his intentions are good or whether he wants to come in Malta just to work and found a marriage of convenience. We'll find that 3 years later when we'll go into the courts and see the separations. And then they will say the reason for separation because he married to get a citizenship. But the point is that we want bona fide investors, and therefore we will, what I meant is that 10 or 15, this is what we were, 15 million divided by 6.5, we get 20 citizens. Out of 1,000 we give, will not invade Europe with all these Schengen passports. That's number one. And number two, I think the suggestion will be taken that there will be a capping. Say, would say not more than, say, 50 a year. Okay? That is being seriously considered, and you will see it. In other words, it's not true that Malta will be a venue to get into, all the Chinese will be coming to Malta, buying these passports and getting into Europe. So it won't be that at all. And this investment must be developed. There will be more bonding, that the person will come to Malta, will reside in Malta, and ideally also have some property in Malta as well. And Malta, being short of certain people of caliber, would be attraction for that. For all, could be a footballer, could be but it has nothing to do with taxation. In other words, if they don't reside in Malta for longer than so much, then they will be taxed in their own country and so on. So this would be a means of money going into investment. Okay? And that fund now, they are working on that, and it should have come together because, as I said, it was a mistake and therefore created a lot of misunderstanding. On the first part of the question, regarding health, pensions and efficiency, it's work in progress. A new government who started to say, look, a month after being elected, and you start an evaluation of the hospital with all its inefficiency. We found a lot of horror stories you find in many countries. Lack of centralized storage, problems with unions and so on. These are all, the report has just published last week, It's going to be, all the stakeholders will be discussing it. The same for the justice reform report. So these are work in progress and corrected. The Commission says they are not promises, but at least they are work in progress, and we expect more to hear from you. I remember in April when I met with the rating agencies, all these reforms were promises. Now they are budgets, they've put in the budget, again they haven't been applied. Next year we'll see them and come here and report on to what extent they were effective. But thank you very much, Sven, I appreciate that.